Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Harry Brelsford from SMB Nation, and we certainly appreciate your joining us for our weekly webinar. So it's Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific on the West Coast, 1 p.m. on the East Coast, and because we're GMT -8 this time of year, let me see, it should be the early evening over in Europe. So really appreciate your time, and I'll tell you why. More and more as I talk to people, they're getting busier and busier and busier, and we're coming into the August vacation season. So I understand that you've taken some valuable time out of your day to join us. We're going to talk about email archiving and saving your cookie duster or your buns with the Sonian solution. So I'm pretty excited about this. We should have a lot of fun. Couple of housekeeping items. Excuse me. Folks, be sure to use the chat feature to ask your questions. And I'll be sure to raise my hand and ask the questions of Steve, the presenter from Sonian. Also, be advised, a couple of things going on with SMB Nation. So we have the 11th Annual Fall Conference, October 10th through 12th, coming up. If you want to take a look at all.smbnation.com for the details. A lot of migration madness and hybrid head strategies and other things going on. We also, 2 weeks ago at this exact moment, launched our peer group. So go to smbnation.com and make yourself familiar with that. Now, without further ado, let's not waste another moment. Let me hand off to Steve Martin. Sir, welcome aboard, and let's get going. Hey, by the way, Steve, where are you broadcasting from? Where are you today?
Sonian is based right outside of Boston.
Cool. Very cool. Well, it's probably not cool. I bet it's humid and hot.
It's unseasonably warm.
There you go. There you go. Well, hey, let's get going. We pride ourselves on staying on schedule. So let's talk about email archiving. I'm excited.
By all means, thank you so much, Harry, and to all the folks who are in attendance. Thank you for your attention. Sonian is an email archiving company, cloud-based email archiving. We're going to spend a few minutes today talking about the business value of data preservation in the cloud. Or maybe we're not.
Excellent. Let's see.
So just a moment to introduce myself. I'm Steve Martin, Marketing Vice President here at Sonian. I'm joined by Troy Gerber, our Senior Solutions Engineer, who's going to give us a bit of the product demonstration as we get to that point in the presentation. And today, again, we're just going to cover some email archiving basics, but also show how that data preservation brings real business value. Explore a couple of use cases that we've come across in the 6 years that we've been doing this. Cloud-based email archiving, at a high level, how it works. Because there's no hardware, no software, this really means rapid deployment. And because the Sonian solution leverages native journaling in the mailed messaging server, this means that 100% of the incoming and outgoing messages are captured and moved to the cloud, where we're going to securely store them. We're platform agnostic, meaning that we're compatible with all the major mail systems, Exchange, Lotus, Google, Kindra, Zimbra, whatever you can think of. If it's got journaling in the messaging server, then we can undoubtedly help you capture and preserve those emails. In addition to capturing them, this is where archiving gets a bit beyond backup. In addition to capturing and securely storing them, what Sonian solution does is create an index of those messages. Not only the metadata in the messages, but also the contents of attachments. Over 500 different file types can be scanned, if you will. That index is then used to perform lightning-fast search across millions of records. We'll see a bit of that in the demonstration later. And I'm not going to read you all these acronyms, but as you can see, we've spent the last 6 years making sure that whenever we touch customer data, we do it in the most secure fashion possible. In addition to providing this secure archive in the cloud, we're going to define different roles and assign permissions for those roles to allow various levels of access to the data. So you may have a search administrator who's got kind of an overarching access to all email and can create searches that reach across each individual archive, whereas an end user may or may not have access only to their archive. This may allow them to restore accidentally deleted files or to conduct their own searches against the archive. There's a third role that can be defined called a search user, and this is created by the search administrator to allow access to a certain subset of data. So if you had a number of people or files on legal hold, or if an investigation or an audit was being conducted, that search administrator could create subsets for the search user to do their job. You know, we started off this presentation, Harry so poetically put it, you know, as a way to cover your behind here. And that old saw, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is certainly true in the business use cases that we've seen. So we've seen some bad stories. People come to us after having been sued and finding that they were unable to produce the necessary documentation to answer interrogatories or discovery requests. And if you fail to meet court orders, there can be some significant sanctions. So we've had some people come to us after the fact, kind of licking their wounds. And we've also had people, enterprises in industries that are unfortunately frequently involved in litigation. So they are kind of jaded into this process, and they come to us specifically because we provide an engine, a search and discovery engine, that enables them to quickly respond to early stage litigation and to knock down some some litigation that was without merit. So kind of putting a stop to it before it gets to court is another aspect of the search and discovery. And let's keep in mind that we're talking about email, and to some degree, you know, a lot of it can be trivial communication. But I think more and more, organizations' intellectual property is involved in these emails. The attachments, when you consider the contracts, the documents, the discussions, the data that's going on, that's being passed from employee to employee, but also that's moving outside your organization, between vendors, customers, supply chain. This is real business communication. And being able to preserve that data and then later to be able to make it actionable, to search and to discover meaning within that data set is increasingly valuable to business. And this is beyond backup, right? So we're fond of saying that backup is for recovery, archives are for discovery. And what's really making the difference there is search and discovery. So to be able to not just have every file that you've ever sent, but to be able to create a query and search hundreds of thousands or millions of documents quickly, like sub-second type speeds, and return the result set based on keywords or more complex Boolean search strings is what makes the archive far more valuable than a backup. And because we've invested from the beginning in this cloud architecture, we take advantage and our clients benefit from these cloud economics. We offer unlimited storage and unlimited retention. This is also, because it's a cloud architecture, highly available, highly redundant, highly secure. This is an IT infrastructure that few enterprises could match if they were to sit down and build it on their own. And this is a SaaS model. So the real benefit here is that you know what the bill is going to be every month. This is fixed cost, predictable, and it may in fact mean a reduction in IT expenses if you can avoid upgrading servers, buying more network drives, servicing and supporting a slew of on-premises equipment. So some clear benefits to establishing and maintaining a secure email archive, preserving all of that data. So high-level ones here: increased productivity. You know, when you look at transitioning employees, the replacement worker, if they had access to their predecessor's communications, could sit down and very quickly come up to speed on conversations that were had with customers or with vendors, to find documents, contracts very quickly. So you are going to see an increase in onboarding optimization there. It's also possible to, well, obviously intellectual property protection is what this is all about, right? Preserving your data and keeping it all for some period of time, eliminates data sprawl and allows you to create a secure, centralized repository. And this is going to decrease the number of organizational risks, allow you to respond to audits more quickly, and potentially avoid costly litigation or discovery costs related to litigation. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over. Yeah, of course, Harry.
Yeah, Steve, I have a question from an attendee, Dan Lapp. He's asked two questions. Very good. The first question from Dan Lapp. Dan, thanks for your questions. Dan says, please comment on the compatibility / integration with Office 365. Can you speak towards that?
Sure. This is actually Troy. I can answer that question. Yeah. So again, going back to what Steve was saying earlier, that we do work with all the major platforms on the market today. One of them would be Office 365. You work with all of the plans that they have. So they have E1 and P1 plans, and our solution integrates just fine with the product.
Okay, cool. And then a follow-up question is, please comment on FINRA, F-I-N-R-A, compliance. Please comment on FINRA compliance.
Sure. So part of the compliance you have to adhere to for FINRA is that the data needs to be stored in separate locations, in redundant storage, and then finally stored on worm-compliant storage. And those are all standard operating features of our product itself. Kind of out of the box, we offer those for the customer. We also have to have the ability to be able to do a random sampling, which is also another kind of standard feature of our product out of the box as well.
Okay, great. Well, please continue. It looks like we have a product demo coming up, eh?
Indeed. In fact, I can hand this presentation over to you. Yep.
Can someone make me the presenter real quick?
Sorry, Heather, if you could just pass that.
Yeah, no problem. Heather, I see Heather over in the radio control room. Heather, could you please assist as needed?
I think it's thank you, Harry.
There we go. All right. Thanks, Heather. You're doing great, Heather. All right. Let's rock, you guys.
All right. So as Steve had talked about earlier in the presentation, talked about these role-based permissions. The first role or the interface that we're going to cover is the e-discovery administrator. So as a customer of Sonian, all your data is stored in this central repository. And there's a role that's called the search administrator that has the ability to search against all the messages within the archive service. What we're looking at is the dashboard for that role. So from here, as the e-discovery administrator, you have the ability to view all the most recent activities. So any searches that have been created, any exports that have been done. We can see who's logged in the archive service, as well as how many objects we have, to include messages as well as attachments. All of this activity within the archive service is audited and reportable. So one of the features you have as a search administrator is the ability to run predefined reports based on different types of activity. So this allows you to keep a close eye on all of the activity that's happening within inside the archive itself. Now, as a search administrator, we have several different ways to be able to locate messages, but for the focus of today's presentation, I'll talk about this wizard-based search. The wizard-based search allows you to create very simple or kind of easy searches by using a simple drop-down here. We can specify any address field and then simply specify the term or word we'd like to search on. So it might be a static word, an email address, or a phrase. Or we have the option or ability to create more complex searches, and we can do this by adding conditions. We can add as many of these conditions as we like, depending on the scope or the criteria of the search itself. So a typical example would be maybe a particular sender or recipient. We can look within the body of the text, look within the attachment text. You can use and/or operators for Boolean search capabilities. That's usually one of the questions we'll hear. And then from here, it's just specifying whether to include or exclude information. And the last thing we'll do is specify the information we want to search on. So just like when we use the any address field, it can be a word, it can be an email address, it can be a phrase, or we have the ability to leverage lists of words that we populate in the system. So another feature you have as the search administrator is to be able to run searches on predefined lists of words you've created in the system. So for the demo environment here, I've created examples that we see in the real world here, which is like HR watchwords, contract search terms, very bad words. Also, you can also create lists of email addresses, like in this example, if there's employees under review. Once you've specified your search criteria, you can then add an optional date range to search on. You can add an optional tag to categorize the search. Then you can also use this area called permissions. And what we can do here as a search administrator is to delegate just the search results that we've created to a particular user that we call a search user. So the typical use case we see is that an organization will have an outside legal representative that needs access to the archive or a subset of the archive based on potential litigation or HR compliance or some type of investigation that's going on. So instead of going through the process of using PowerShell, creating searches, exporting the PSP, shipping them off on a hard drive or a thumb drive, now you can quickly create an account, have this person logged in based on the criteria to them, and provide access to the archive in just a couple of clicks. Now from here, what I'm going to do is go through the review features of the product. Now first, I always like to show the example of what we're actually searching on to give you context to the review we're going to be looking at. So in this example, a very typical use case of a wizard-based search, we're going to look for all the messages that Tom here has sent to Marie with two conditions. The first condition being shows anytime these two terms are used within the body of the text, or anytime the same two terms are used within the attachment text. No date range specified, so we'll just search against all the messages in the archive. We'll go ahead and display those results. Now, earlier during the presentation, Steve had talked about that the product does full text indexing and full text extraction. And we do that text extraction from 500 different file types. So all this indexing and extraction, what that translates to for search administrators, all of those terms are going to be highlighted throughout our search results. So you can see here in this first example, there's Tom, there's Marie, both highlighted as the header information. We're also going to highlight it within the body of the text. Then that full text extraction comes into play here where the product will actually highlight that term inside this associated PDF file. Not only does it highlight the term itself, but it provides you with a snippet or an example of where it's used within the document. Now from here, it's basically working with the messages individually or as a group. So individually, we have the ability to download this message to a PDF, to an EML file. We can forward the message out of the archive to someone inside or outside the organization, or we can simply recover the message back to our search administrator mailbox. Now, as a group, if we wanted to, we could reduce this result set from 12 to something more manageable. This example 12 is not the best example, but if it was something larger, we have the ability to filter our results. And essentially what this feature does is it allows us to do a search or perform a search within a search. So from here, we have the ability to specify a different date range, sender, recipient, maybe include or exclude some terms to either refine or reduce the result set down to something more manageable. From here, again, it's working with the messages individually or as a group. So individually, you have the ability to start tagging the messages for categorization purposes. In this example, this one's been marked with all the tags here. It's been marked with reviewed, starred, and attention. So you can do those individually for each of the messages, or if you want, we can also do bulk tagging, which means that we have the ability to tag all of the messages in the search result with one of the predefined tags, or you can also create a custom tag word on the fly. One of the other important things about an archiving product is to, at some point, if you have regulatory compliances that you adhere to, is you need to set a retention policy. Well, our product does come with unlimited storage and retention, but you can set a retention policy on the archive service. One of the other important features of the product is to be able to place that data on legal hold, just in case that data set or particular messages are a part of an ongoing investigation. And again, we have several different ways to do that. Individually, you can place a message on legal hold by simply clicking the legal hold button. You can see in this example, this one's already been placed on legal hold. Or if we want, we can place all of the messages on legal hold by simply clicking here and saying place all of these messages on legal hold. Then they'll all be represented on legal hold with the icon highlighted. The last feature I'd like to highlight here is the export capabilities of the product. Very flexible as far as formats go. We can export to PST, EML, text, PDF, as well as the HTML file format, so lots of flexibility there. I think the other thing that's important to highlight here too is just how the tagging comes into play. So in the previous result set, those are 12 results. If we wanted to, we could export it out to one of the different file formats, or we have the ability to selectively export messages based on associated tag words. The other use case for this is that if we have another search admin or search user logging in, they only want them to look at the messages that have been marked as starred or maybe attention. So they're not having to comb through hundreds and hundreds of messages. They can log in the archive service and look for the messages that only pertain to the particular investigation that they need to review. The other nice thing about our product too is we also have end user access or personal archive access. In this interface, we refer to as My Archive. Now, so what you're going to see here is the idea is if I'm Troy, I work for Sonian, I want to log into the archive service and review just my own messages and attachments I've sent and received in the past. And you can see from this interface, it's completely different than the e-discovery portion. What we've done here is to design a product that's very simple for users to get familiar with. Basically, what we've done is adopt all the popular features from webmail clients. So the interaction is very familiar to an end user. They click on a message at the top. The contents show up in the lower pane. If there's any associated attachments, they just go over one of the attachment links, and then they're prompted to save it right to their desktop. To locate messages, again, it's very quick and easy. Provide a static word, email address, or we have more advanced search capabilities here where we have the ability to, again, specify date ranges, sender, recipient, include or exclude terms. Now, once they've located the message, they have several different options, or several different actions they can take on the message. They have the ability to forward the message out of the archive to someone inside or outside of the organization. They can recover the message back to their inbox, or they also have the ability to download the message to an email or to a PDF file. So the important takeaway from this is that you're not only introducing the ability for end users to locate the message themselves, as a vendor, you'll be able to reduce support tickets. You're providing a self-service function for end users to log in, locate that particular message, locate that particular attachment on their own from their own personal archive. So this is very much a productivity tool. It also allows customers to also reduce the storage footprint that they have locally. So they can set a stricter retention policy on their server and then provide the rest of that data accessible through the Sonian archive product. The other important feature that we have for end user access is we do absolutely have Outlook integration. Here we have a standard Windows 7 desktop or an Outlook 2010 client. And the only thing I'd like to demonstrate here is just the usability of going between my active messages to my archive messages, all within the same interface. So the end user, they're able to go between their local messages to the archive messages stored with us without even having to use Outlook. And that's the end of the demonstration. Very simple, quick, and easy.
Boy, gentlemen, this is Harry. I would call that Lego easy. I mean, that's great. That's great. Well, folks, just a housekeeping note, please use the chat feature to ask your questions. We've just seen a demonstration of the Sonian solution. So Heather's over in the control room. Hi, Heather. And she will forward those questions to me from the chat feature so I can ask them of our guest presenters. With that said, let's continue.
Actually, Harry, I believe that concludes our component of it, taking you to kind of the high-level data preservation messages and in-depth demonstration of how the search and discovery function and legal hold components work within the product.
Okay. Well, that is, I want to say that's extra special in a kind way. That, you know, I always consider a business meeting or a phone call that ends a couple minutes ahead of time to be a great call in this day and age, because I'm busy, you're busy, everybody on this webinar today is busy. So folks, I'm going to make a last call for questions. We have a question that just came in, so keep the questions oh, now they're coming in quick. We scared them. This question is, how is customer data stored? Customer data is encrypted using AES. I'm not sure. How's customer data stored? Let's start with that. And it looks like the person's talking about something AES 256. Can you field that question for me?
Sure. So yeah, I think that what they're referring to is actually how. So once my data is inside the archive, how is that actually stored? Is it in secured fashion? So the answer to that would be the data is stored a couple different ways. One is that we store it on worm-compliant storage, first of all, which just means that the data cannot be edited once it's within the archive service, and we encrypt that data with customer-unique AES 256-bit encryption keys, which I think is what they were looking for. And those keys are unique to each customer.
Okay, and forgive me for not asking questions very well. We have, oh my goodness, we really scared them. They're just flowing now. How is the service priced? How is the service priced, please?
So the service is priced per mailbox per month. So you have a predictable cost every month, and there is no extra cost there's no fine print around that. So with that service per mailbox per month, you get unlimited storage as well as unlimited retention and 24/7 365 support.
Okay, great. Next question is from Steve Quinn. Steve, thanks for joining us today. The question is, we are a small MSP. Do you have a minimum number of mailboxes or other minimum that might be tough for firms below a certain size? Let me put a wrapper on that question, that a lot of our SMB Nation tribal members are MSPs with 5 or less than employees. So this question from Steve doesn't surprise me. So how do you handle the smaller firms?
Yeah, so we're very familiar with working with the smaller SMBs who specialize in the smaller firms like that, and they can actually just they bring a customer to us and they become a partner. So whether it's 5 seats or 50 seats, we work with. We're very, very flexible as far as. I mean, there's no kind of minimum for it. The minimum would be, do you have a customer that needs archiving? We'll bring them on board, and then you become a partner of Sonian.
Okay, great. Next question, is data in transit encrypted?
Yeah, so data in transit is encrypted from the server to us, and that's just using, I think what they're looking for is just how it is. So it's a standard, it's called a TLS or SSL connection. So yeah, from the customer server to us, the data in transit is yes, it's encrypted and secure.
Okay, great. I've got one more. Folks, keep them coming. I'm having fun. The next question I have currently is, how is the service supported? I think that kind of relates to like 7x24 or something. Okay.
Yeah, so we do provide unlimited support with the product, which is inclusive to the price per mailbox per month. It's 24/7, 365 via email and by phone. And we do have global coverage too as well.
Okay, great. And then where can they, let me paraphrase, where can I get more information? What's a good website address, email address?
Yeah, so for more information, feel free to visit Sonian.com. Think of Smithsonian, get rid of the Smith, SONIAN.com. Or they can send in inquiries to sales@Sonian.com.
Okay, great. And folks, remember that while we're waiting for any final questions, remember that tomorrow you will receive a personal thank you from me that will have a link, a replay link to this webinar, as well as the contact information and any other information that Sonia would like to share with you in our thank you email. So I'll definitely make sure that you get that. So I think we need to, hang on, I got to spin the magic wheel. Hang on there just a second, because we're giving away a tablet today, an Android tablet. So let me open up the old random number generator. You know, I wish I had the sound effect of a real wheel. You know, what's that TV show at 7 p.m. after the evening news where they spin the wheel? The game show. That Price is Right. I'm gonna struggle with that when I need it the most. So let's see. I'm spinning the wheel, and we have Shirley Peterson came up with a random number. So Shirley Peterson from CMIT Solutions. Shirley Peterson, you are the winner of an Android tablet. And you will be receiving information from Heather over in the control room about how we can get that Android tablet to you. So we appreciate you not only taking time out of your day to join us, but also having a opportunity to win. Okay, so we scared him again. I've got 3 questions queued up. We have our good friend Dan Lapp asking, how would you position Sonian versus Semantic Enterprise Vault? Boy, gentlemen, that's a loaded question. Whew, Dan, you're on fire.
So the Enterprise Vault application itself is actually a loaded question because they have several different versions. But the main one that we see is that the Enterprise Vault product is actually an on-premise solution that requires hardware and software to be installed and other Windows resources to be able to leverage all the features and functionality of it. Whereas our product is 100% web-based and requires no hardware and software, and installation is measured in minutes versus days and weeks.
Okay, great. We have a question from Paul Appelgren. Paul asked, does Sonian provide additional services around the email archive core, such as spam filtering or email retention policy enforcement, a la Mimecast? Does that make sense? What additional services do you provide?
Now, Sonian is a generally. So let me say it in a different way than I was going to answer here. Is that so? Our product itself is inch-wide, mile-deep email archiving. And generally, what happens is that we partner with most partners that we work with are bundling this with other solutions and pushing out as a complete solution as a managed service provider.
Okay, great. And then Steve Quinn asked, any unique offers for those in groups like CompTIA or HTG? So do you have group discounts? Let's go with CompTIA. They just completed their ChannelCon conference yesterday in Orlando. So if you're a CompTIA member, is there a discount code for your product, sirs?
So absolutely. So if any representatives or people that are part of the CompTIA organization, feel free to reach out to the Sonian sales reps here, again at sales@sonian.com, and talk to them about the CompTIA membership, and they can get you in there with special discounts on pricing.
Okay, great. The last question I have queued up at the moment is customer data replicated?
Yes, so customer data is replicated. Within the U.S., we leverage 2 different data center clusters. There's one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. Each of those are actually made up of several physical locations that replicate internally and then across to the other geodispersed data center on the West Coast. Basically what it translates to is that we provide our customers with 11 nines of data durability. So that was the long answer. The short answer is yes, the customer data is replicated.
Okay, so folks, I'm going to kind of turn into my auction barker mentality at a charity auction. So going once for final questions, going twice, and finally going 3 times for final questions. We're at the bottom of the hour. This is the Sonian Email Archiving Will Save Your Buns webinar. It looks like we may have cleared the deck, gentlemen. So with that said, thank you very much for, and I mean this in a kind way, an efficient and effective webinar. Folks, you just got a couple minutes back to go back to the salt mine a little bit earlier, get a little bit more important work done, and I'll leave you with this bit of trivia. I haven't checked in the last couple of hours, but did you know at the market open today in New York, the S&P crossed 1,700 for the first time. So I haven't peeked in a few hours, don't know if it's still there. But if you believe in leading indicators, good times ahead. Sonian, thank you so much for presenting your solution to the audience, and we'll get you the follow-up email and the replay link tomorrow. Folks, have a great day. Thank you very much.